Hey guys, welcome back to my Animal Adventures YouTube channel, and I'm standing down here in my snake room and I am actually going through all my tubs and changing the substrate. And let me tell you, I have a whole bunch of tubs that I need to go through, and let me just give you a little tour. I have my grow out racks here, my hatchling rack over here, all these tiny little tubs, and then all my adult female ball pythons over here. And I have a reticulated python in here. His name's Sunny, and I already changed his bedding, so we won't have to change that. And what I do is I go through my rack, I put little binder clips to show that I've actually changed the substrate in those tubs. And I'm just kind of working my way through. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you from beginning to end how I go through and change the substrate and how I clean the tub. And I realized that in all my videos I've never really showed you in detail how I clean and change the substrate. So let's start. I'm actually going to go up to the kitchen and open up a block of the coconut husk and expand it, and I'll show you how I do that, and we'll start up there. Okay, so this is what I use as my substrate. It's Pro Cocoa Chip, and to begin with, I just take a knife and I cut it open and take it out just like this, and then I open it on the sides. Okay, so from here I just turn it over and take the plastic off and the label off the front. Okay, so from here I've put some warm water in the sink. I like to keep it pretty warm. I know these blocks are frozen in the garage, so I like to warm it a little bit more. And then I put the block in the sink. And I totally submerge the block. And I usually wait for about, I'd say about 15 seconds, and then I flip it over. And then I'll submerge it again, and typically I'll wait until it starts expanding above the water line, usually about an inch or so. And you can see already that I can't push it down all the way, I can't even submerge it anymore, so it's almost there. You can tell this block is definitely packed a lot looser than some blocks. And then once it's expanded that much, I'll drain it a little bit, and I'll put it over here in a tote, and I'll wait for it to expand, and I'll break it up. Okay, so I am back down here in my snake room, and I brought the expanded coconut husk. And let me show you how I set this up. So I really don't have a sink in this room because it's pretty much wall to wall all the way around. There's I could put a sink in here, but I would sacrifice space. So let me show you how I kind of overcome the obstacle of not having a sink. So what I do is I have all these tubs that are clean, and then I use clean cups. I re-clean all my cups, and then I just put a fair amount of substrate in here. And what I found is if you put too much in here, the snake it's too far away from the heat, and I don't think it can really get enough heat. And if you don't put enough, it dries out really fast, and it doesn't really give good coverage. So what I like to do is I like to have a little bit of substrate, just enough for a good layer on the bottom, but I don't like to go up too high. And the other thing you have to watch is if you have small snakes, really small hatchlings, in a tub like this, that they can actually get into the water. So if I was forced to put a hatchling in a tub like this, what I would do is I'd fill it even more, just to give the hatchling the leverage to get into the cup. And typically I put hatchlings in the hatchling rack, and they're not in a setup like this. So from here, what I'll do is I'll fill the cup with some water, and then I'll come over here and I'll pull one of these tubs. So for example, I want to change this one. And this is my pastel spider desert ghost female. And the funny thing about this is the substrate looks good, but you get it wet and it smells kind of musty, almost earthy kind of. It doesn't really smell that good. It doesn't really have a terrible smell to it, but you can definitely tell it needs to be replaced. Okay, so I brought this girl down and put her tub right there temporarily, and I put the new tub in here. It's all ready to go. And then what I'll do is I have these little clips, and I'll take one little clip and I'll clip it right in the middle. And as I go through, I'll clip them just to make sure I know which one has been cleaned, and then I'll move her over. She is really fat. Hopefully those are eggs developing in there, because I paired her up this year. And that would be really awesome if she's full of eggs. It's still quite a few months before they'll actually lay, though. I'd say probably at least 3 or 4 months. And then what I'll do with this is I'll empty out the cup into my waste bucket. And the cups, normally what I do is I have the dirty ones face up and the clean ones face down, so I know which one's which. And then I will, actually in this trash can over here, I put a brand new trash bag. And I actually save all of my substrate and I sell it for landscaping material. And it works really well for landscaping material. And you kind of want to get the snake sheds out, because people kind of freak out over the snake sheds. And I usually sell it on Craigslist, so you never really know who's going to get it. And then I'll take a little paper towel and I'll just kind of wipe down the stuff that's stuck on that you can loosen up, and then just kind of knock it off into the container here. And then from here, what I do is I use F10 that's diluted with water, so I use like 10 mils of F10 per bottle of water, and I'll spray it down really good, give it a nice heavy spray, and spray the whole thing down. And I usually let it soak, and then what I do is I usually stack them under the table as I go. And once I stack all these under the table, and then what I'll do is I'll go through and I'll wipe them down. So let me go through these and I'll set them up and I'll clean some tubs. And once I get to the end, I'll show you where I go from there. Okay, so I was just going through my tubs and I realized that I actually have an extra tub here. I actually rearranged this whole thing, and I had some of my Pac-Man frogs in here, and I moved my Pac-Man frogs into these glass aquariums over here. And I realized once I organized everything that I actually had sold one of my holdbacks at one of the shows. So I need to pick out another holdback. And what I'm thinking of is I have this male caramel, 50% caramel albino scaleless head, and I can cross it with one of my scaleless head females down here. And I have multiple females, and you really can't tell which one is going to be 50% het caramel. I don't really think there's markers for caramel albino, and what I might do is just find one that has one of the more higher expression scaleless heads and move her up into that tub. Okay, so I landed on this one. I decided to keep this back as one of my holdbacks, and if I breed the scaleless head to this, I may get a completely scaleless snake in it, and I may get lucky and get a caramel albino scaleless. And this one's big enough to actually get into the water. It can actually get up there. But if you had a smaller snake, I'd probably put a little more substrate. But I think this one is fine because the snake is fairly large. So the other neat thing about using magnetic labels is I can just pull them right off and move it right up to this other tub. And typically I'll put the name on the top. And at this point, I can probably take all these off, 8/6 plus rooms, because I think pretty much all my holdbacks and all my current snakes, well actually I do have a few on the bottom that I've been assist feeding. I still have some of these. This one's really struggling. Take a look at this one. I can't even believe this. I assist fed 3 times and she's still will not eat her on her own. She's so small. An albino, this is 100% het albino, or 100% het pied albino. Okay, so I decided to keep this one back as one of my holdbacks. It is a female scaleless head, 50% het caramel albino. She's got pretty good high expression scaleless head. She's got some pretty good body weight to her. And I have a male. if I can breed the male to the female, I'm thinking I have maybe a 25% chance of hitting a caramel albino, and I could actually, if I really get lucky, I could hit a totally scaleless caramel albino on my first season. I don't know, that'd be pretty wild odds. But you can see the substrate is pretty far down, but this snake is big enough she can definitely get up and get into that water. So this is pretty interesting. I just noticed my squirt bottle actually squirts, but it's putting out like a third of the volume that it normally puts out. And every now and then it'll put out the full volume. And I definitely think my squirt bottle is going out. I'm going to have to buy another squirt bottle. And I think I'm pretty much replacing them about once a year on the squirt bottles. So here's another thing I'll do. So you notice this tub has no label, and I'll still go through and change the substrate and give fresh water, because this is for the males, and I have all my males paired up over here with the females, and I'm going through the rotation, and every 5 or 6 days I'll bring the males back here for a rest and let them rest for a while. So I'll definitely clean everyone, so I know everyone's clean in the whole rack. And then I won't have to, kind of figure out, which one's clean and which one's dirty. I'll just clean them all, and then I'll know for the whole month they'll all be clean. Okay, so I finished cleaning that batch of tubs, and it looks like I put 6 clean tubs up in my rack here. And based on the amount of substrate that I have left here in the tub, it looks like I have about at least 6 more tubs that I could clean with the rest of the substrate. And then from here, what I do is I go through the tubs and wipe them down really good with the F10 and make sure all the dirt and debris is loose in the tub and get it ready to spray down with water. Okay, since I don't have running water down here, what I do is I pump up my little pump-up sprayer down here, and that's what I use to spray down the tubs. So this is actually a little 2-gallon pump-up sprayer that I bought at Home Depot. I think they're like $20 or something. And then I put one of the tubs right in a 5-gallon bucket and just rest it right there. And let's see if I can do this holding the camera. So what I do is I just take the sprayer and spray right in the tub. And it doesn't really take that long to spray the tub down. And it goes really fast, and it drains right into the bucket. I think it might be almost easier than trying to work in a sink. But with 2 hands, it's definitely easier than trying to hold a camera. But it goes really fast, and I think it's really easy. And I'm tempted to just keep doing this and not even worry about getting a sink. Okay, then from here, what I do is I just take a regular old towel and wipe down the inside of the tub and dry it off really well and start the process over. Okay, so that's pretty much it. This is the equipment that I use to clean my tubs, and I usually go through about once a month and clean all these tubs all over here. And actually I had some hatchlings over here in this hatchling rack, and it was a lot more work when I had all these hatchlings, but actually I moved them all out and I cleared the whole rack out. And I had a few over here that I moved back up into this rack that I actually had some Pac-Man frogs in. I moved my Pac-Man frogs over here, so I keep rearranging stuff and moving stuff around. And typically I won't do the whole room all at once. I'll take it in sections. So normally I'll just do a small section and spread it out over several days, and it really cuts back on the work. And normally I'll only do like a block or 2, and then I'll call it a day. And so, it'll take me I normally don't even spend more than an hour or 2 down here per day. And it's actually not as much work as you would think with all these animals. Snakes are really low maintenance, and on this level you have a little more work, but it's not as much work as you would think at first glance. Okay, so that wraps up my discussion of how I clean my snake tubs. And if you have any questions, post them in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.